Good morning, guys, from Bournemouth. Just a very quick update. Yesterday, I had some problems with Facebook, as I'm sure many of you are aware. I uploaded a post, very detailed post, being very honest about a lot of things in the world, from the geoengineering program, solar radiation management, the particulates that are being sprayed, the damage it's doing to the ecosystem, and also the human body, including your internal organs and the brain. I'm into specific details also about cancer. I don't think they'll like this very much. I mean, people need to understand that cancer is not a disease. Okay? Cancer is a condition. A condition, or a medical condition, by definition, is basically a condition that has a catalyst, an outside initiator, to actually initiate that particular condition in the body, to form mutations in your cells and your DNA to actually form cancer. So I made this very clear that it's not a disease, it is a condition. I'm sick and tired of people actually stating that cancer is a disease, it's in your genome, it's in your DNA. Actually, it isn't in your DNA and your genome. I'm very well aware of this. I'm very well read on all of these things, and I'm not a stupid person. I don't like to be considered a stupid person by Facebook by basically deleting a profile, or from deleting an article which took me more than 3 hours to write. Cancer is a condition. The outside catalyst for cancer is not a difficult question to answer at all, actually. The catalyst is the nuclear and radiological elements that are being sprayed in the chemtrails, such as lithium, barium, strontium, strontium-90, plutonium, uranium, highly radioactive particles. These get into your bloodstream. They're all nano-sized as well, by the way, the same as the aluminium. They get ingested through your skin. They get into the capillaries in the surface of your skin, and from there get into the main bloodstream, attacking your red blood cells and actually actively attacking your white blood cells, travelling to the nucleus and inhibiting the production of mitochondrial DNA, which is a starting motor for all of our immune systems. Another thing to note is that a lot of the sulfates that are sprayed are very damaging to the skin. They actually thicken the skin. They have the effect of thickening the skin. So therefore, when you're outside getting some sun, which obviously we need sun for vitamin D, the vitamin D finds it very hard to penetrate the skins, to give you your daily dosage of vitamin D. Obviously, our bodies produce their own vitamin D, but only with the required amount of sunlight. And because the solar radiation management programs are actively diminishing the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth, in fact, it's 25% less now than it was 15 years ago, this is also a direct assault on your immune systems. We definitely need vitamin D for our immune systems. All of these are combined together with the lack of mitochondrial DNA in our white blood cells, plus the lack of vitamin D from the sun, is causing our immune systems to be weak and making us all susceptible to disease and infection, especially the older in a generation, because the older you get, the less efficient your immune system starts to become. Just the fact of getting old. But irrespective of that, this is a premeditated assault on all of you. Another few things I was mentioning yesterday, primarily what Robert Scott was mentioned on a video of his, I think about 3 or 4 days ago, regarding the terror attacks worldwide we're seeing in Barcelona, we saw in Paris, we've seen in London, etc. 9/11, my God, a classic example. All of these terror attacks are actually not terror attacks, okay? They've been rehearsed, planned, and put into place by people in positions of power, politicians. They are actors and actresses on the street playing these terrorists, basically. Yes, people do get killed, but that's all part of the plan to instill fear into the public. But they are basically false flag operations, what's known as false flag attacks. The government initiate these in order to, in the future, have an armed response on the streets, on your cities, in your towns, so an armed presence constantly in your cities and towns, and that will now be accepted by the general public, because the general public really don't understand what these false flag attacks are about. They consider these false flag attacks to be terrorist attacks when they are not. They will be implementing armed officers, military, police, security officers, etc., on the streets with weapons for your personal safety and security. This is all part of their plan to control the society that you live in. Don't see it as any other thing, because it certainly is not. There are no terrorists, there are no Al-Qaeda Muslim terrorists in our cities and our streets. All these events are planned, coordinated and rehearsed. And basically are false flag operations. They are not terrorist attacks. You need to understand that the terrorists are not the Muslims. They've got better things to do in their own countries, fighting Afghanistan, Syria, etc., Iraq. All illegal wars, by the way. We shouldn't be there. It's fucking disgraceful and disgusting. But basically, the terrorists are the people that are sat behind a desk in a suit and a tie, and they are your politicians, the people you vote for, the people in positions of power. It's very simple for them to utilise these particular attacks and to use them effectively, because primarily governments worldwide, for their activities, simply don't have any political oversight or any oversight by the law, because everybody trusts them. They don't need to have oversight. So these false flag terror attacks can happen very easily and very quickly, and they can implement them at any time they want without any suspicion from the authorities. But obviously the police and everybody else are involved in these attacks. You cannot trust your government. The other thing was about the geoengineering. That people just don't seem to get it still, that every single airline is involved in these programs. Every aircraft has been retrofitted with equipment to spray persistent chemical trails over the UK, over Europe and worldwide. The Civil Aviation Authority are complicitly involved, from the United Nations Weather Initiative, obviously. United States, not just United States, United Nations and all the other people involved in these programs actively want to own the weather by 2025. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think they've done it already. Because there's a fact that we have no natural weather systems anymore. Zero. Absolutely none. Our weather systems have been absolutely devastated by the climate geoengineering. The jet stream's been altered. The Gulf Stream temperature is in a state of collapse. If that happens, then our weather systems will be completely out of control, and there's nothing that the geoengineers can do to stop that. To try and manipulate a planet's weather is the most irresponsible action that I have ever witnessed in my life, or ever read about. Dr. David Keith, the Turnman, quoting, saying that we do not know the effects of stratospheric geoengineering on the ecosystem. We have no idea of the effects of stratospheric geoengineering on the atmosphere, and we have no idea of the effects that stratospheric geoengineering will have on all living biological organisms, i.e. everything including us. And that is the guy that's running these programs, and for me that is a terrifying statement from the guy that actually runs these programs, who is primarily in charge of running these programs. Oxford University and Cambridge University now are having their own climate engineering programs starting up. They're getting involved. Obviously our government are involved because the Civil Aviation Authority are involved, so let's not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. We've written to the Department of the Environment and Climate Control, and we've had absolutely no response. This doesn't surprise me. I actually wrote a letter in 2014 to the same department, and I received a reply, and I've kept it. And basically that reply was, there is no stratospheric aerosol geoengineering taking place over the United Kingdom or Europe at present. There are no persistent chemical trails being laid down over Europe and over the United Kingdom. If there's any further information that you require, please don't hesitate to write to us in the future, which of course I have done, but I haven't had a reply. What a surprise. Yeah, both Robert Scott and I wrote that letter, and we will just have to see what happens. Hopefully we'll get a reply. If we don't, obviously, they've got things to hide. It's either no answer or complete denial. There's no honesty. There's no in-between matter there. It's just so damn predictable with these people. One of the things I also mentioned about the ultraviolet radiation levels currently reaching the Earth. According to the climatologists and the people that actually take the measurements worldwide, their statistics say that UVB radiation should be no more than 5%. And is no more than 5%. Well, actually, it isn't, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually quite terrifying, and I will explain to you why. I have measured UVB radiation, not at 5%, but 48.65%. Very accurately measured, of course, with the specific equipment to do it. I have a separate piece of equipment which measures UVC, which are X-rays. UVC should be 0 It should never ever be present at ground level. Never. Our ozone layer or the ionosphere should prevent all ultraviolet C radiation from reaching the Earth's surface and reaching ground level to affect you, I, and all biological life, trees, plankton, plants, everything, yeah? But unfortunately, UVC levels are not zero, they are 8.76%. Now that is the scariest number that I have seen in my entire life. UVC radiation are X-rays. They are extremely damaging to your DNA. They cause every known cancer to man, and some that we're just starting to discover. What a coincidence. I don't think so. So, UVC radiation is now reaching the Earth's surface. They are denying it flatly, even though there have been probably hundreds of thousands of people taking these measurements worldwide. And the measurements are between 0.2 and 0.3% difference. So, basically, they're all roughly the same. So that tells you the fact that UVC levels are extremely high now. With the HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Alaska, which is an array of 180 high and low frequency and microwave radiation antenna. These antenna are being used in conjunction with the geoengineering programs. They can basically send specific frequencies into weather systems. They can form hurricanes, and they can actually steer that hurricane in any direction they want. It is nothing short of a weather weapon to be used against mankind. They can also initiate tornadoes. Another thing you might be interested to know, ladies and gentlemen, is that these, the microwave radiation can be sent directly into the ionosphere, bounced back down into the fault lines of the Earth to initiate earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. Indonesia, for example. Why did that happen? That particular event killed 170,000 people. 170,000. Okay, the Oklahoma tornadoes. That killed a lot of people as well. Wonder why that was. We've had lots of tsunamis, we've had lots of earthquakes. Actually, we had a lot of earthquakes lately. We had one in Rome yesterday. There have been earthquakes reported on very frequently over the last year, over lots and lots of different places. And it is no coincidence that these earthquakes are happening. They're happening because they are being basically initiated by the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Programs worldwide, which now, by the way, there are over 500. They're all being used as a weather weapon. It's a very, very simple concept and a very easy way to kill a lot of people by just pressing a button, altering the frequency, and directing a weather anomaly at a specific country at a specific time. For example, in Indonesia, when they had the tsunami there, tsunamis generally are basically an earthquake underneath the ocean, which causes a wave to come out in all directions. But around Indonesia, they have dozens of sonar warning buoys, which basically are an advanced warning system to tell the people of Indonesia that an earthquake has occurred and there's a possibility of a tsunami. Unfortunately, this time, there was no warning. There were no warning tremors. It just happened like that. It never does that. I've studied tsunamis and volcanic eruptions and geology and tectonic activity and the way the Earth works, the way the Earth recycles itself. Tsunamis don't just immediately appear like that. They have warning tremors. This one didn't. Also, on that event, they actually saw the aurora borealis in Indonesia. Wow, now that's a strange one, because I don't think you could see that in that part of the hemisphere. You've got the aurora borealis, which is the northern hemisphere, and you have the aurora australis in the southern hemisphere. In between, okay, on the equator, you don't see it. You don't see the northern lights, the aurora borealis, but they did. And the reason for this is that every time the HAARP is activated, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Alaska, it causes all of the particles in the atmosphere to get excited and cause the auroral phenomena to occur. That's why they saw that phenomena just before the tsunami hit, killing 170,000 fucking people. Okay? 9/11. Now, we all know about 9/11. I mentioned this yesterday as well. Now, 9/11 was a false flag terrorist attack to initiate war in the Middle East so the armed companies could make hundreds of billions of dollars. Very strange, isn't it, that just before the attacks, the one specifically at the Pentagon, which by the way wasn't an aircraft, it was a Tomahawk cruise missile, either launched from a ship or launched from an aircraft. I've seen these fucking things fly over. I'm ex-military 20 years, I know what I'm talking about. I know what they fucking look like. And the damage, what it caused, and they cause a specific shape in the building, okay? They go straight through it. They're extremely efficient missiles, okay? That was a Tomahawk cruise missile that hit the Pentagon. But obviously, before that, there were trillions of dollars went missing from the Pentagon. That money was never recovered. That's very strange, isn't it? And it's also strange that the Tomahawk cruise missile hit the Pentagon in exactly the same place where all of the computer banks are kept with all the financial records for the Pentagon, and where those trillions of dollars would have been accounted for in that particular computer bank system. That was hit first. They weren't after killing the people, they were after destroying the evidence of all of that money that went missing. Okay? The buildings on 9/11. The obvious one really for everybody to look at, and the one which was not really publicised in the media as much as the Twin Towers themselves, was Building 7. Now, Building 7 collapsed into its own footprint. Buildings collapse into their own footprint for one simple reason, and it's basically classic demolition. That's what happens when you demolish a building with explosives in specific points, structural weak points on the building. It goes dunk, 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 dunk. And as they go down, you see little explosions coming out like this, which we saw when it was slowed down. Into its own footprint. Perfect. Explosives were used on Building 7. Explosives were also used in the World Trade Centers, because both of the World Trade Centers, even before the aircrafts hit, there were big explosions in the basement of the buildings to weaken the structure before the aircraft hit. Or aircraft. I don't think there were any aircraft. Of course, it's probably holograms. And if an aircraft goes over that altitude, it's something like 150 to 180 decibels. It's quite deafening. The people that were taking the video saw the aircraft like this. They had their videos. They were like this, looking up the aircraft coming in. Ooh, look at the aircraft. It's fucking going to hit the tower, but no sound. You know, sound travels very effectively in an oxygen atmosphere. In space, of course, you can sit on the moon and play a piano and nobody'd fucking hear it, because there's no air molecules to make that sound go anywhere. But in Earth's atmosphere, we have oxygen. The only reason you can hear sound is because the air carries that sound. Simple as that. So, 180 decibels, video camera pointing up at the World Trade Center just before the aircraft hit. And all you see is the aircraft, but you hear no sound. Very strange. They really didn't think it through very well, did they? There's so much to go into on these videos. I'm, completely fed up with Facebook. I mean, yesterday, I don't even know if they're going to allow this video to be shown. But it took me 3 hours to write that document yesterday. Luckily, one very lovely lady, okay, Carol, she saved the video. She put it onto my Messenger, but obviously, I'm going to have to rewrite it probably, because I can't share it from Messenger. I've asked her to tag it onto my personal profile on Facebook. Then I can actually share it from there and save it again properly this time. But anyway, they removed it because they didn't like all the information that was on there, basically. They didn't give me any reason. They didn't even tell me that they deleted it. But I know they had deleted it. I was very honest, in fact, brutally honest, that, you can't make something which is a horrific thing nice and all pretty colours and everything. It is what it is, so you have to say it how it is. And as I actually made very clear in one of my profile updates, I am who I am, and I say it how it is, and I do. I'm a down-to-earth guy. There's no fucking about. It is what it is, and I say it how it is. I don't colour over anything. Okay, I'm ex-military, so I am. The other thing I was stating yesterday about cancer, specifically cancer research. They've been researching cancer now for more than 50 years. I cannot believe that over this 50-year period, with our enormous medical advances that we've shown so far, that we have not found a cure for cancer. Okay, that we have not found a cure for AIDS, which, by the way, was an engineered virus. You need to understand that as well, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, AIDS didn't come from monkeys or anything else. It was a geoengineered virus, biologically engineered and mutated virus, released by these people to cause the same in a specific community which they didn't particularly like. Now, I don't care if a man sleeps with a man, or a woman sleeps with a woman, or an elephant sleeps with a fucking dog. I really don't give a shit. It's their choice. Just don't, push that onto me. But freedom of choice, you do what makes you happy and makes you feel comfortable. Some people obviously don't like this, so they find a way to eradicate that in our society, and that was one of the ways to eradicate that particular thing, homosexuality, etc. Yes, which they really didn't agree with. The other thing with cancer, what I was speaking about just now, is basically cancer has been around for a long, long time. Going back, I was speaking to a very good friend of mine, Marjana, and we were speaking about when we were children. You really didn't hear about people dying from cancer every day, like 1 in 3, 1 in 2, whatever horrific statistics now. You just didn't. You didn't hear of any family members dying of cancer fucking 30 years ago, 35 years ago, okay? But you do now. And there is a reason. As I stated earlier in the video, it is not a disease, it is a condition. There is a catalyst, an outside catalyst, which causes those mutations to occur in your body. And the catalyst is the radiological elements they're spraying in the chemtrails. Even though they're not going to fucking admit it, I know this is fact. So, 30 years ago, cancer was virtually unheard of. We really didn't hear of very many people dying of cancer. Obviously now we do, because there is a direct correlation to what's happening in the world and what they're spraying and what they're doing. It's a direct, premeditated assault on mankind. I don't like to use the word mankind, womankind as well. Ladies, all respect to you. But, in the last 50 years, there has been research, cancer research, and they still haven't found a cure for cancer. I'm afraid I do not believe it, ladies and gentlemen. I am 100%, 1000% sure that they have found the cure for cancer, but they're not going to tell us. All they do, the pharmaceutical companies, all they do is sell highly toxic, poisonous, radioactive chemotherapy drugs to hospitals, and this needs to be made clear. They sell these drugs to the hospitals, the pharmaceutical agencies, because they cannot fucking benefit from healthy people. They sell these horrifically poisonous chemicals to hospitals, not to treat people with cancer, but to kill people who have cancer. Yeah? Over the last 50 years, there is no fucking way on earth that they haven't found a cure for cancer. Absolutely zero possibility. But, people don't like the truth. Facebook definitely don't like the truth. It's a Zionist platform, definitely run by the New World Order. Zuckerberg was in Israel not very long ago, shaking the hand of the Israeli president. Oh, we're good friends, etc. Or you're very successful, you've got lots of money, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but it's fucking censorship, 100%. From the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Not just my posts. Everybody has been turning around, a lot of people, should I say, have been turning around to me and saying, oh, my post was not allowed to be on there either, my video was fucking not allowed to be on there. It didn't comply with Facebook's protocols. It went against Facebook's principles, all this horrible stuff, okay? Normal video evidence, normal photographs, the geoengineering, specific information, documents, stuff that people have written and posted onto Facebook. All of a sudden, look, it's gone. For example, my post yesterday, I can't remember how many words it was, but a lot of words, ladies and gentlemen. It took me 3 hours to write it, yeah? So, a number of people shared it. They also saved it to their individual profiles on Facebook. And they also shared it to 2 specific anti-geoengineering websites. I was in contact with these people, and basically they relayed the information to me that post had been taken down, all the comments had been taken down. Facebook had actually gone into their personal fucking Facebook profiles and removed that article that I'd written. So they couldn't keep it, so they had no chance of sharing it again. Also, I had an email from 2 anti-geoengineering companies who had taken that information, put on their website, saying that it had mysteriously disappeared off their personal website, okay, which has copyright. Copyright. These people have no morality. There are no rules for these social media platforms. They will do what they please when they please. They will allow you to post whatever they think is appropriate for Facebook. Anything that explains the truth about the world, about geoengineering, about cancer, about how horrible the world is, about false flag terrorist attacks, which are fact. They don't like it. They don't want the truth to be exposed. And in my opinion, I think they're getting quite fucking worried about us, because we are putting a lot of important information out there for people to look at and to listen to and to read and to inwardly digest and to research, do their research, pass it on to their friends, so their friends can do research, pass that research to their children, so their children can talk about this in their schools, so the children can actually talk to their teachers about it, and the children can then refuse to be indoctrinated into learning about new cloud types. Okay? Books, videos, posters, drawings on the blackboard of chemtrails. This is a recognised programme. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to harm anybody. It's for your own good. They're doing it to help mankind. They're doing it to help the environment. Okay, if they're doing it to help the environment, why are they... the primary goal of geoengineering was to basically stop the amount of carbon dioxide that it's being emitted by our industrial infrastructure, etc., which is shit, by the way, anyway. It has no impact, very little to no impact on rising global temperature. CO2 just doesn't, okay? But they are releasing, at the moment, hundreds of millions of tons of carbon dioxide into the stratosphere. Now, why would they do that? Why would they release the very gas they're trying to eliminate, which causes anthropological global warming? Why would they release more carbon dioxide when they're trying to stop carbon dioxide from rising global temperatures? Obviously, if you release enough carbon dioxide into the atmosphere of the planet, it is going to rise the global temperatures. But our industrial infrastructure and our transportational infrastructure have very little impact on the rising global temperatures, because it's such a small amount of CO2 being released. But when you're releasing hundreds of million tons a year extra on top of this, now that is going to make a difference. They can then use this information to say, look, the global temperatures are rising now because of our industrial infrastructure, our carbon footprint is out of control. It's not out of control. They are doing this intentionally to be able to utilise these programs even more. The HAARP has been basically bombarding the ozone layer, the ionosphere, with high-frequency radio waves and high-frequency radiation. Microwave radiation, very nasty stuff. It starts to fucking fry your brain like smart meters do, and 5G towers. The death towers, yeah? And of course they are death towers, because they're killing people. They interfere with the electrical signals in your brain and cause all sorts of nasty problems there. But speaking about the ionosphere and HAARP, they are bombarding the ionosphere, the ozone layer, with high-frequency radio waves and high-frequency radiation, electromagnetic frequency as well. They are heating it to 10,000 degrees Celsius. Now that is the temperature of the surface of the sun. Very hot. You know, you wouldn't want to go for a whole day to the surface of the sun, because you'd last about a millisecond before you were completely obliterated. Your atoms scattered into space. So they're heating the ionosphere to 10,000 degrees Celsius. What this does is basically it excites all of the gas molecules in the ionosphere. The ionosphere is made up of lots of gases, primarily oxygen and nitrogen. What this actually does, it strips the electrons from that specific gas, and it's called ionization. It strips the electrons and ionizes that gas, and that gas is then turned into another matter, which is called plasma. When the electrons have been stripped from the gas, it turns into plasma. And the temperature of that plasma is roughly 10,000 degrees Celsius. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit hotter, depending on what they're doing to it. They measure this activity with a magnometer. And what it's actually doing to the ozone layer, it's actually making holes in the ionosphere, with a massive hole in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. It's basically ozone depletion. What this does is it affects the gas around this hole and actually spreads out and causes those gases to be depleted as well. So the hole will actually get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This is why we're seeing such high levels of radiation reaching the Earth's surface at the moment. Obviously UVB levels are very high, should be 5%, it's not 48.65%. UVC should be 0, it's not, it's 8.67%. So yeah, there's a direct correlation with what they're doing and the radiation which is actually reaching the Earth's surface at present, which is very, very dangerous for you, by the way. UVC or X-rays, they're a very good reason why you have to wear a lead apron when you go have an X-ray, because X-rays damage your DNA and they cause all sorts of nasty cancers and mutations in your body. Very nasty, okay? Try and avoid X-rays at all costs if you can. So UVC radiation does exactly the same thing. It causes basically DNA damage. That damage cannot be undone. It is permanent damage. Causes radiation poisoning as well. Even short exposure to the sun will cause your DNA to be damaged and will start to cause mutations inside you, depending on your health, of course. These mutations then turn, obviously, into cancers. And there's a very high probability that this will happen in your body. UVC radiation should never be present at ground level. When you go out into the sun now, you probably feel that the sun feels a lot hotter, even when you've got cloud coverage, because cloud coverage doesn't stop UV radiation coming through. UV penetrates all the way through the clouds, through you, into the earth, and in about 10 miles into the earth as well. So it's very damaging. You can't escape the bloody stuff. Even if you're underground in a facility, that radiation is still going to penetrate the ground, and it's still going to affect you in the same fucking way. It doesn't make it any less because it has a lot of ground to penetrate. It's still as strong. UVC radiation is UVC radiation, yes. They're basically charged particles from the sun. Very, 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 very damaging. So obviously you're feeling the sun is much hotter when you go outside now. The reason it feels hotter is because UV radiation is so much higher now than it was 15 years ago. No amount of solar radiation management, basically covering the earth in thick blankets of cloud, is going to stop the radiation coming down. It will slightly cool the planet, I suppose, to a certain extent, but the problem with solar radiation management is basically all of this cloud, which is covered up, and it normally goes around 11 o'clock, midday. It's the hottest part of the day, basically. So all of that heat, which is built up during the hottest part of the day, is trapped under these clouds and it can't escape. It's trapped. So therefore, that heat is heating the earth at night. It's very rare that we have clear nights now. We're normally completely covered in clouds, so the earth is being heated at night, which is contradictory to cooling the planet and contradictory to preventing global warming in the first place. So the global warming initiative is just the biggest load of bollocks, excuse my language, that's ever been told. It's the biggest lie that's ever been told to mankind. I've actually written a climate model, a very accurate climate model. It took me 3 months. I wrote my own program. And basically I was taking into consideration our transportation infrastructure, on industrial infrastructure, tectonic activity, volcanism, because obviously sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere that has a small impact on global temperatures, but very little. There's a good reason why these events happen. It actually helps the atmosphere of the Earth to balance itself with the right amount of gases, so it's all very comfortable for us. Now, my climate model is based only on CO2, and it predicts the it predicts the global temperature rises over the next 100 years, only using CO2 as a catalyst, which is what they're talking about. And that temperature rise over the next 100 years will be 1/600th of 1 degree of 100 years. So